With the kind permission of the Honorable Chancellor, could I now request Professor Bimal Roy to kindly deliver the convocation address. Professor Bimal Roy, please.
Good morning to you all. His Excellency, the Governor of West Bengal and Chancellor of the University, Dr. C.V. Ananda Bose, Vice Chancellor Professor Suranjan Das, Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya, Deans of the Faculty, members of the Jadavpur University Court, distinguished faculty members, other members of the university, graduating students, ladies and gentlemen. I first thank Professor Suranjan Das for inviting me to address an assembly of bright, young adult minds who are on the verge of making a move or have already taken a decision for the next few years ahead. Although my title says, "Can you make a right decision?" I think I give a disclaimer at this point that I'm not talking about making a decision like whether the sum of the three angles of a triangle is 180 degree. So those things are approached from axioms and rules of inference. So here I'm talking, but there's certain level of uncertainty in making decisions. And I also thank my colleague, Dr. Nochiketa Chattopadhyay. Numerous discussions with him actually made this address possible. In the contest, many of you must have appeared an interview board, be it for a job or for a higher degree. And there you have seen people like me on the other side of the table. You may know that ISI is the first institute in India to offer M.Tech degree in computer science, way back in 1981. To get admitted, you have to clear the interview. I share one experience of mine in such interview. First candidate, I saw the background. He was from a very reputed institution. So immediately, an impression was created in me that this student is very good, and I tend to accept this person. So I ask a question, which he fumbled. Then I ask an easier question. He answers correctly. And I think the boy is good. So decision is positive. Next comes a boy who is from so-called ordinary institution. And immediately I thought that let me check how good this boy is. So I ask a difficult question. He answers. I ask a more difficult question. He answers. Then finally I accept him too. So he's there. Then when I was teaching the class, I found that the boy from the ordinary institution was a little better than the boy from the very reputed institution. So what went in my mind? I think I kind of harassed that boy from the ordinary institution, and I kind of give easy life to the boy from the new institutions. And you can believe me that I had no prior intentions about these things, but I became biased, and while decision making, my bias acted very strongly. For the first boy, I immediately decided I would take him unless otherwise proven. And the other boy, I decided not to take unless otherwise proven. Now this bias of mind acts in making decision, no matter how conscious I am. Okay, then I'll talk about, I think the Jadavpur University students are aware of the world movies. So I talk about a movie, a very old movie by Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon. So there an event happens, and there are 4 eyewitnesses. Now in the king's court, all of them give a statement with their own perception. I'm sure that they had no other bad intention. They didn't want to indict any of the characters there, but they had their own bias of looking at things. And when you listen to this, their description of the event, they are pretty different. What was the problem? The bias was introduced in their narration, and the judge could not really make a decision. In fact, I teach this movie in my BSTAT courses and tell them that how a data which may get often biased, making a decision becomes, if not impossible, very, very difficult. Okay, then my question comes, how do we make decisions? I narrate the founder of my institution, Indian Statistical Institute, Professor P.C. Mohalanovish. He made a very remarkable quote. I don't know why this is not so popular in the every scientific domain. Okay, his quote is that any principle or any scientific decision or even social decision that you make must not be not in capital, decided by number one, authority, number two, belief, number three, majority. And what the quote would examine? The principle of validation, a derivative of power of an individual, or is it imposed by a collective? Can it be a legacy of the social monolith? Any evidence of any of these directions? We reject that principle. So we have already formulated our methodology in all the scientific field how to come to an inference. Okay, now how do I understand and remove biases? Now there are standard procedures, what we call randomization. In the first case, anonymization. In the first case of two students, if I wouldn't have looked at the students' credentials, then I would have been probably more fair to the students. Even the questions that I ask, if I could randomize the questions and ask the candidates, then probably I could do a better justice. Okay, the second stage is the analysis and interpretation part. This part entails you to put your scientific thoughts and perceptions from experience to be cross-examined by the touchstone of observations. If you want to check whether these two are working in tandem to help you discover rules, you need to find applications in real life, in real decision making, and in as many fields as possible. Agriculture, biology, anthropology, economics, all found successful applications. You may know that PCM started his work mainly on anthropometry, and the famous Mohalanovish discourse statistics was invented in the upshot. J.B.S. Halden, a pioneer in introducing statistics and mathematics to biology, was chiefly responsible for the design of our BSTAT program in ISI. So what is our statistician's role? I'll again make a second quote from the living legend, Professor C.R. Rao. He says that if chance is the antithesis of law, we must study the law of chance. Now this is something to be understood very carefully. How do we study the law of chances? Okay, so we have to really think how this nature of chance, playing a hide and seek game and having fun perhaps. This happens in every other field of science where you have some element of uncertainty and use observations, reduce the noise. You are careful of obtain data may conflict with your guess about the reality. You may have guessed the right track, your data leads to choose the wrong path. You may have a wrong address, but data leads to the right house only. Thus, the very choice of decision you put at the altar of chance, the Agni Pariksha of data, by which you expect the law of chance to reveal itself, is itself a big challenge. Wisdom and experience in the specific scientific domain play a crucial role. So one example where this challenge is quite extreme in nature, in my opinion, is the field of decision-making in socio-economic issues. This could be the reason why economic policies have witnessed failures from time to time. It remains a very difficult problem and no robust solution could be provided by the statisticians. One reason could be the extreme heterogeneity of the behavioral responses and huge number of factors. While modeling, economists generally view profit maximization as the exact dual to the cost minimization. I think this aspect also needs a review since several dimensions of costs which are important for the society are ignored. Further dynamic aspect of the decision and the subsequent effects on the stakeholders complicate the problem. It may be of some interest for the audience to know how someone like me from statistics become interested in cryptology. You know that in 1990s, computer and information technology took a giant leap in the creation of the World Wide Web. At that time, I was a faculty in the computer science unit. Somehow I started pondering about the aspect of the cost of this innovation. I began thinking about whether this could make some of us quite vulnerable since information could be accessed more easily and whether that could affect the quality of life and affect the security of private information. Can statistics play a role in the making of the system less vulnerable? I was teaching the students of MTech in computer science. Throughout my teaching career, I have benefited a big way from some extraordinary students like you by their intelligent questions, probing questions, for some of which I did not have a good answer. This questions gave me a deeper understanding of the subject I was teaching. I can tell you that I had the fortune of having two such students from this university who became very much excited and enthusiastic about the issues in security of information sharing. With them, I could confidently treat an uncertain route. We could attract international attention. So cryptology began its journey in ISI with statistics playing a key role. Jadavpur University had an indirect contribution to it. So what could be the way forward? How do you build a truly scientific temper? This is a genuine requirement for the advancement of your own self. If you want an answer from me, I will tell you to find the biases and the prejudices sitting happily in your own mind, find your own and perhaps unique way to overcome those. Light the lamp within, as the great Buddha emphasized, Atma Deepa Bhava. Trudge the path which may not be smooth. It will, however, have more light with a clear and decisive direction. Thank you.
Your Excellency, sir, could I now have the privilege to request you to address the convocation? Your Excellency, sir.
Honorable Chief Guest, the distinguished Professor Bimal Kumar Roy, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Suranjan Das, distinguished members of the court, and of course Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya, members of the Jadavpur University faculty, recipients of degrees, and the most distinguished, honorable students, the heroes and sheroes of Jadavpur. It gives me great delight to be in this prestigious institution, to witness the pageantry and the ceremony which is associated with the convocation. Jadavpur University is the fourth best university in this country. 3 cheers to the faculty and the students and the leader, the Vice Chancellor, for achieving this unique distinction of bringing laurels to yourself and glory to the nation. I am proud to hear that in the Stanford list, there are 42 scientists of this university who have international acclaim. 3 cheers to them, certainly. What is education? Education is enlightenment. Education is enrichment. Education is emancipation. That is why none other than Gandhiji said, live as if you die tomorrow. Learn as if you live forever. Live as if you die tomorrow. Learn as if you learn forever, live forever. And here is Nelson Mandela telling us the truth, the eternal truth. The biggest weapon to make changes in society is education. Aristotle says, the roots of education may be bitter, but its fruits will be sweet. That is education. But I also am reminded of what Einstein said. Einstein said, education is what remains. Once one has forgotten everything of what he learned in the school. I was one time a teacher. My most favorite profession are those days when I was a teacher. I take delight in that. But teachers have a problem. When they see students in front of them, they ask questions. Because teachers don't have to answer. They only have to ask. My old habit is coming inside me. I am going to ask you a few questions. Please answer me. You are all bright students, I know. You may feel that my questions are silly. But still I would expect you to answer. and answer it in one voice. My first question, that is, who are the following? First question, Shakespeare. Who is Shakespeare? Please answer me. Shakespeare is dramatist, right? Abraham Lincoln, President of India, right? You agree? Albert Einstein, great scientist, you agree? But you ask their teachers, they are very bad students. They are school dropouts, but they became great. So, if you want to be great, you should drop out of the school. Is that the? No. Education is what remains. Once one has forgotten everything that is learned in the school. I draw your attention to one of the golden chapters in the history of India. The young prince defeated in the war. He is a fugitive. He and his teacher, they run for their life and seek asylum in a widow's kitchen. The widow is making bread. Suddenly the teacher tells the student, the prince, look, she is making bread. If you want to eat bread, start from the periphery. If you bite at the center, your tongue will get burned. Knowing the purport of this, the young student, the prince, goes back to the battlefield, attacks the enemy from the rear, wins the battle, establishes an empire. Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya became part of history. Chandragupta learned the art of warfare, empire building, not from the Indian Military Academy, not from Sandhya School, not from North Point. He learned it from life. So education is what remains once someone forgets everything of what is learned in the school. Yes, that is the purport of education. When I say education is enrichment, education is enlightenment, education is emancipation, I can hear the voice of the youngsters telling, sir, it is all true, but education is employment. Education should lead to employment. That is why Dr. Radhakrishnan's commission, Education Commission, said, Indian education is unrelated to life. As a former Vice Chancellor and one in charge of the Atomic Energy Education Society, and so many years the Higher Education Secretary, I can say, education is not only unrelated to life, education is thrice removed from reality. This has got to be changed by the new education policy, which we will discuss later. Now, when we speak about linking education with life, linking education with employment, I would like to go to the lighter vein. There was a friend of mine. He passed engineering, but he did not get a job. So he came in search of a job to Kolkata. No job was there. Then somebody told him, there is a circus company performing in Kolkata at that time. So he applied for that. He was given some job there. In the circus, there is a scene. The cage of the lion will be brought to the center stage. Then the cage of the chimpanzee, the monkey, will be brought nearby. The lion's cage will be slowly lifted. The chimpanzee's cage will be slowly lifted. The chimpanzee will be pushed into the lion's cage. The lion will come pouncing on the chimpanzee. And the chimpanzee goes here and there for life. It is to see this blood-curdling event that thousands of people come to the circus tent. That day, the chimpanzee died. The circus is to start. The manager of the circus asked us, this engineer friend of mine, who got a job there, today you please put on the dress of the chimpanzee so that performance can be done. And he said, my God, to give myself a dinner for the lion, sorry, I cannot do that. But I persuaded him only for a day. He donned the cloth of a chimpanzee. The lion's cage was brought there. The chimpanzee's cage was brought nearby. Lion's cage was lifted. Chimpanzee's cage was lifted. They pushed the young man, the chimpanzee, into the lion's place, scared. The chimpanzee boy said, please spare me. I am an engineer. The lion said, don't worry, I am an advocate. So education should lead to employment. Certainly education should be related to life. Otherwise education has no meaning. We had many educational commissions, you know. The best statement of any education commission, the momentous observation which was made by Kothari. Kothari Commission's report starts with the sentence, India's destiny is being shaped in her classrooms. India's destiny is being shaped in her classrooms. The new education policy speaks for an India-centric education. Do you know that Huansang has made an observation about the universities of India in those days, about Nalanda University. Instead of gatekeepers, they had gate scholars. Anyone who wants to enter the portals of the Nalanda University will be asked a few questions by the gate scholars. If you don't answer the questions, you will not be admitted inside the walls of portals of the university. And you know, out of 10 visitors, hardly 2 will be admitted. That was the highest norms which India had in quality education in this country. Now that's all gone. We have to revive it. May I ask the students, my very dear students, a favor? I remember when I was handing over the prizes to them, long time back, as a student, sir, I had the opportunity of receiving many prizes like this in debating competitions. I wish I could go back to those days. Bliss was it to be alive in those days, but to be young was very heaven. The poet said about the French Revolution. When I come here and see these bright, ebullient faces of the youngsters, the new generation of India, I also want to go back to my childhood days and be one with them. I see before me, in this Jadavpur University, I see before me the leaders of India, the leaders of the world. The new generation of India. The new generation of India will lead the world. You give them the order, go. They are willing to march on to to conquer any impregnable fortress where knowledge is required. This is a knowledge society. India's knowledge society will be led by the young people, new generation of Bengal. And India will lead the world. I witness before me that change in front of me. I have a request to make to you. When I was discussing one challenge to the heroes and sheroes in front of me, Professor, your distinguished Vice Chancellor, when he met me, we spoke about decolonization. Sir, shall I make a request to your young students? This robe is a symbol of colonization. Yes, this was designed by Oxford and Cambridge in the medieval days from the robe which was worn by the clergy. Do we need this? I respect this. When Vivekananda went to Chicago, was he dressed in a three-piece suit? Look at the gravitas in his face when he is in the Indian suit. And Gurudev, that flowing robe which he has, is it British? When we see Gurudev in the flowing robes in the meditative mode, I would like to call it the philosopher's mantle. Let us design something. Of course, an occasion like this, where our young students are getting their degrees, it is a ceremonious occasion. It should have a dress code. But that dress code will reflect our heritage and culture, not the British culture. Decolonize. Decolonize. I look forward to the days when one of you can decide the robe which India should wear in the Indian universities. Let it be by the heroes and sheroes of Jadavpur University, which will proclaim the pride of the youngsters in their own internal strength. And what is your internal strength? I am not good at Hindi, but still, remember the Doha. Tera sai tuch mein, tera sai tuch mein, jom pukhpan mein baas, kasturi ka mirg jom phir phir dhunde khas. Tera sai tuch mein, your God is inside you. But you are looking here and there, like the musk deer, which looks for the fragrance, not knowing the fragrance comes from within. I would change it to the students, Tera Shakti Tuch mein. Your strength is inside you. Tera Shakti Tuch mein, jo Pukhban mein baas. Kasturi ka mirag jom phir phir dhunde khas. Find out the strength within you. Then nobody can stop you. I will conclude here now. I remember an episode in the Mahabharata. Jayadratha is challenging Arjuna. Arjuna said, today, before sunset, I will finish Jayadratha. I will liquidate him. If not, I will commit self-immolation. Heavy fight goes on. Sun sets. Jayadratha is not vanquished. Obviously, Arjuna has to do self-immolation. You know, the cunning Krishna, the whiff of his hand, the sun has again risen. The sun has again risen. But Arjuna is bewildered. Krishna asks him mischievously, Arjuna, the sun is above you. The weapon is in your hand. The enemy is in front of you. Why don't you act, Arjuna? My question to the bright young Arjuns in front of me. The sun is above you. Global opportunity. The weapon is with you. Knowledge. Enemy is in front of you. Bottlenecks. Why don't you act? Indian students can act. The students of Jadavpur University can act. They can conquer the opportunities that are available for them anywhere in the world. I have only one wish to make. Honorable Vice Chancellor, next time you invite me, let it be for the celebration when Jadavpur University is selected as the best university in India. Thank you. Thank you very much. I confer upon the Honorable Vice Chancellor the authority to award the degrees of the university. Thank you so much.
এতক্ষণ শুনলেন 24শে ডিসেম্বর 2022-এ যাদবপুর বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের 65তম সমাবর্তন অনুষ্ঠানের রেকর্ড করা অংশবিশেষ। অনুষ্ঠানটি রেকর্ড করে এনেছেন অনুপমা জানা। শুনতে থাকুন কমিউনিটি রেডিও জেইউ 90.8 মেগাহার্টজ।